Rain pounded hard against the car window as Helena sat paralyzed, her hands trembling on the steering wheel. Her eyes were fixed on the lit window of the apartment where, until just moments ago, she imagined she would build her future. But that future had shattered like glass when she saw, through that same window, Lucas, her boyfriend of 3 years, the man who had promised to marry her, in the arms of another woman. It wasn't a friendly embrace. It was intimate, passionate, devastating. Helena got out of the car in the pouring rain, feeling the cold water mix with the hot tears streaming down her face. Her legs barely supported her as she climbed the stairs, each step weighing like lead. When she opened the door with her key, the sudden silence in the apartment confirmed everything. Helena! Lucas emerged from the bedroom, hastily adjusting his shirt, his face pale. I can explain. You don't need to. Her voice came out firmer than she expected, despite her broken heart. I saw everything. A blonde woman appeared behind him, embarrassed, grabbing her purse. Baby, she means nothing. It was a mistake, A mistake. Helena let out a bitter laugh. How many mistakes, Lucas? How many times? His silence was answer enough. Helena looked around the apartment they shared, the memories of every corner now contaminated by betrayal. Then, she placed her hand on her still discreet belly, protecting the secret she had been carrying for only 6 weeks. A secret she had planned to tell him that night, with a special dinner and a pregnancy test wrapped as a gift. I'm leaving, she said, her voice breaking. And I don't want to see you again. Helena, wait. Let's talk, please. But she was already leaving, abandoning not just the apartment, but all the dreams she had nurtured. On the street, beneath the storm, Helena hugged herself and felt the weight of loneliness. She was pregnant, alone, and would have to rebuild everything from scratch. That night, in the small studio apartment she managed to rent with her savings, Helena made a promise to the child growing in her womb. I'll be strong for both of us. We don't need anyone. 3 months later, Helena's belly was beginning to show beneath the dresses she carefully chose for work. As an administrative assistant at Almeida Enterprises, one of the city's largest construction companies, she needed to maintain professional composure, even when morning sickness left her exhausted. Good morning, Helena. The deep voice made her look up from her documents. Rafael Almeida stood in front of her desk, impeccable in his navy blue suit. The company's CEO rarely came down to the administrative department. At 38 years old, with black hair slightly gray at the temples and amber eyes, Rafael was known both for his business genius and his distant, serious demeanor. Good morning, Mr. Almeida. Helena stood up quickly, smoothing her dress. I need you to reorganize all the documentation for the Valley Gardens project. There were inconsistencies in the previous reports. He studied her for a moment, frowning slightly. Are you all right? You look pale. I'm fine, sir. Helena forced a smile, ignoring the dizziness beginning to take hold of her. I'll take care of the documents immediately. Raphael nodded and began to walk away, but stopped when he heard a small moan. He turned in time to see Helena stumble, her hand seeking support on the desk. In 2 long strides, he was beside her, holding her by the arm. Helena! I just need a moment. Her voice was weak, her face even paler. Raphael gently guided her to the chair. When was the last time you ate? She blinked, trying to remember. The truth was that money was tight, and she had been economizing on meals to save for the baby. I had coffee. That's not an answer. He picked up the phone from her desk and dialed quickly. Maria, bring water, orange juice, and some sandwiches to the administrative department. Now. Mr. Almeida, you don't need to. Yes, I do. He pulled up a chair and sat facing her, his serious eyes fixed on her face. You're pregnant, aren't you? Helena froze, her eyes widening. How? I have 3 sisters. I recognized the signs. His voice softened minimally. And by the way you're trying so hard to hide it and how run down you look, I imagine it's not being easy." Tears came without warning, and Helena quickly wiped them away, embarrassed. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't. This isn't professional." "Forget professionalism for a moment." Raphael handed her a handkerchief from his pocket. "Do you have support? Family?" "The baby's father." Helena let out a bitter laugh. "The father is busy with his mistress. And my family? Well, my mother died 2 years ago and I don't have anyone else." Something changed in Raphael's gaze. Genuine compassion replaced his usual professional coldness. "Are you getting prenatal care?" "Yes, at the health clinic." She hesitated. "Sir, I promise this won't affect my work. I need this job." "I know you do." Raphael stood up when the secretary arrived with the food tray. "Eat. That's an order. And I want you on the company's executive health plan starting tomorrow. No arguments." "But I don't have the position for." "Now you do. You're promoted to executive assistant." He was already walking away, returning to his business posture. "And Helena? Eat properly. I need healthy employees." As she watched him leave, Helena felt something strange in her chest. It wasn't just gratitude. It was the first spark of hope she had felt in months. In the weeks that followed, Helena began to notice subtle changes in her routine. Her new position as an executive assistant placed her directly under Raphael's authority, which meant spending more time working close to him. But there was something more. On Monday, she found a basket of fresh fruit on her desk with a simple note, "For the baby's health. Are." On Wednesday, Raphael canceled an important meeting when he noticed she was struggling to remain standing for long periods, insisting that she work while seated. And on Friday, when Helena casually mentioned that she needed to start buying things for the baby but didn't know where to begin, Raphael did something completely unexpected. "I have free time tomorrow afternoon," he said, closing his folder of documents. "I can take you to a few stores. My sisters have had 4 children altogether. I know what's necessary." Helena stared at him, stunned. "Mr. Almeida, I can't ask that of you." "You're not asking. I'm offering." He looked at her over his reading glasses. "Besides, you need guidance. I saw the list you were making. Half of those items are unnecessary, and you forgot the essentials." And so, on Saturday afternoon, Helena found herself in one of the most expensive malls in the city, standing beside Raphael Almeida as they visited baby supply stores. "This is indispensable," Raphael said, picking up a sophisticated stroller. "Shock absorption system, 5 reclining positions, compatible with a car seat." Raphael, Helena had begun calling him by his first name outside the office, at his request. "This costs more than 3 months of my salary. And it's a gift." He added the stroller to the purchase list without hesitation. "Don't argue. You've already done too much. The health insurance, the promotion." "Helena." He turned to her, his amber eyes serious yet gentle. "Let me do this. Please." There was something in his voice, a hidden vulnerability, that made Helena fall silent. As they walked through the store, Raphael selected items with surprising knowledge. Soft baby clothes, thermal blankets, a convertible crib. "How do you know so much about babies?" Helena asked, genuinely curious. Raphael was silent for a moment, his fingers tracing the embroidery on a blue blanket. "My youngest sister, Carolina, had complications during the birth of her first child. Her husband was traveling for work," he said quietly, his voice heavy with memory. "I was the one who took her to the hospital. I stayed with her through 20 hours of labor. After that, I helped take care of my nephew during the first few months while she recovered. You must have been very important to her." "I tried to be." He picked up the blanket and added it to the growing pile of purchases. "Family is all we have in the end, Helena. And it's not always about blood ties." The look they exchanged in that moment was far too intense, loaded with unspoken meaning. Helena looked away first, her heart racing. "Boy or girl?" Raphael asked, changing the subject. I don't know yet. I'll find out next month. Then let's go with yellow and green for now. He smiled, and Helena realized it was the first time she had ever seen him truly smile. It transformed his face completely, softening his sharp features. When they left the store hours later, Raphael's car was filled with shopping bags. Helena felt overwhelmed with gratitude, and with something else, something dangerous beginning to bloom in her chest. Why are you doing all this? She asked as he dropped her off at her small studio apartment. Honestly. Raphael fell silent, his hands resting on the steering wheel. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. Because I know what it feels like to be alone. And because... He looked at her, and there was a depth in his eyes that stole her breath. Because you deserve to have someone take care of you too. That night, lying in her narrow bed, surrounded by bags full of gifts, Helena placed a hand on her belly and whispered, I think I'm in trouble, little one. I think I'm falling in love with him. The medical clinic had pastel-toned walls and soft music playing quietly. Helena was nervous, adjusting herself in the waiting room chair, when she felt a familiar presence. Sorry I'm late. Raphael appeared, still in his suit, clearly coming straight from a meeting. Traffic was impossible. You came. Helena felt her eyes well up. She had mentioned the appointment casually, not expecting anything. I said I would come, didn't I? He sat beside her, and his hand found hers naturally, intertwining their fingers. We're going to find out if it's a boy or girl today, right? His touch was warm, comforting, and Helena realized how much she had begun to depend on that presence. In the last 2 months, Raphael had become an integral part of her life. Shared lunches, long conversations about everything and nothing, goodnight messages. The line between boss and friend had become blurred, replaced by something much deeper. Helena Martins? The nurse called. In the ultrasound room, the doctor applied cold gel on Helena's already prominent belly. Raphael remained beside her, holding her hand, his eyes fixed on the monitor. And then they heard it, the rhythmic, strong sound of the baby's heartbeat. It's a girl, announced the doctor, smiling. And she's perfectly healthy. Helena sobbed, tears flowing freely. Raphael squeezed her hand, and when she looked at him, she saw that his eyes were also moist. A girl, he murmured, amazed. They left the clinic in silence, still processing the moment. Raphael opened the car door for her, but before Helena got in, he touched her arm. Helena, I need to tell you something. Her heart raced. There was something different in his voice, an intensity that made her tremble. I know this isn't the ideal situation. I know I'm your boss, that there are complications. He ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. But these last months, getting to know you, being by your side, I can't pretend anymore that it's just friendship or charity. Raphael, I'm falling in love with you. The words came out in a rush, as if he had held them for too long. With you and with this child that I'll love as if she were mine, if you let me. I know it's early, I know you have reasons not to trust, but... Helena silenced him by placing her fingers over his lips, tears streaming down her face. Me too, she whispered. I'm falling in love with you too. Raphael pulled her into his arms, hugging her carefully, as if she were precious and fragile. Helena buried her face in his chest, feeling safe for the first time in so long. Can we go slow? She asked, her voice muffled. I want this, I want you, but I'm scared. We'll go at your pace, Raphael promised, kissing her hair. I have all the time in the world. But the universe, apparently, had other plans. 2 days later, Helena was organizing documents when the receptionist called. There's a man here wanting to talk to you. Says it's urgent. When she went down, her blood ran cold. Lucas was there, looking disheveled, his eyes red. Helena, please, I need to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. She turned around. I know about the baby. His voice echoed in the lobby. I know you're pregnant and that it's my child. Helena stopped, blood pulsing in her ears. She turned slowly. How did you? I ran into Mariana, your old colleague. She told me. Lucas approached, desperate. Helena, I made a terrible mistake. I broke up with Juliana. I want to come back, I want to be a father to our child. We can start over. You have no right. Helena began, but was interrupted by a cold voice behind her. I think you'd better leave. Raphael was there, his posture rigid, his eyes hard as stone fixed on Lucas. Who are you? Lucas stared at him. Look, this is between me and Helena. I'm Raphael Almeida, owner of this company. And if you don't leave now, I'll call security. Helena, are you with him? Lucas looked between the two, incredulous. You replaced me with your boss? How long after we broke up? The child isn't even his. Leave. Raphael's voice was dangerously low. Now. As security escorted Lucas out, Helena felt her legs weaken. Raphael held her immediately, guiding her back to the elevator. Breathe, he murmured. Everything's okay. But it wasn't. Because now the past had returned, and Helena didn't know what to do. The night was starry when Helena finally left the office. Raphael had insisted she rest in his private office after the confrontation with Lucas, staying by her side until she calmed down. Let me take you home, he said, grabbing the car keys. On the way, the silence was heavy. Helena looked out the window, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. He has a right, she said suddenly. Lucas has a right to know his daughter. Raphael gripped the steering wheel tightly. He betrayed you. Abandoned you when you needed him most. I know. But she's his daughter too. Helena felt tears return. I can't deny that, as much as it hurts. Raphael stopped the car in front of her studio apartment, but didn't turn off the engine. They sat in silence for long minutes. Do you still love him? The question came out tense, pained. No. Helena turned to him, firm. I don't love him. But I'm scared, Raphael. I'm scared that I'm using you as a crutch, that I'm confusing gratitude with love. I'm scared that you're falling in love with the idea of saving me, not with who I really am. Look at me. Raphael held her face with both hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. I'm not trying to save you. I don't pity you. What I feel is admiration for your strength, for the way you face everything alone. I fell in love with the woman who smiles even when she's exhausted, who works twice as hard to prove her worth, who loves this child before even seeing her. I fell in love with you, Helena. With the person you are. What if Lucas wants to be part of her life? What if he demands rights? Then we'll deal with it. Together. Raphael rested his forehead against hers. If you let me stay. Helena closed her eyes, letting the tears flow. I'm so afraid of getting hurt again. Me too. He admitted, his voice hoarse. I've never allowed myself to feel this for anyone. It's terrifying. But I'd rather feel fear with you than safety without you. The kiss was inevitable. Soft, gentle, loaded with promises and fears, hopes and uncertainties. When they separated, both were crying. Stay with me tonight, Helena asked. Just stay. In the small studio apartment, lying on the narrow bed, Raphael embraced her from behind, his hand resting protectively on her belly. She's kicking, whispered Helena, guiding his hand. Raphael stayed still, amazed. I feel it. She's strong like her mother. Raphael, about Lucas. We'll resolve this the right way, he promised. We'll establish boundaries, maybe an agreement. He may have the right to know his daughter, but you decide how much he participates. And I'll be by your side, no matter what you decide. What if people judge? Your boss, your friends, your family? Let them judge. He kissed her shoulder. You and this little one are my priority now. 3 weeks later, in Raphael's office, now decorated with ultrasound photos, Helena signed an agreement with Lucas. He would have supervised visits after the birth, but custody would be exclusively hers. Lucas, surprisingly, accepted without much fight, perhaps finally realizing he had lost something precious. "It's over," said Raphael when Lucas left. "Now we can move forward." Helena looked around the office, at the evidence of how her life had changed in a few months. From a destroyed and lonely woman, she had become someone loved, valued, hopeful. "There's one thing," said Raphael, suddenly nervous. "Before the baby is born, I would like—" He knelt down, taking a small box from his pocket. "Raphael, it's not a marriage proposal. Not yet." He opened the box, revealing a delicate ring with an amber stone. "It's a promise that I'll be here for both of you always. When you're ready, if you ever are, I want to ask you that question for real. But for now, will you accept this? Will you accept building a future with me?" Helena fell to her knees before him, tears flowing freely. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." When they kissed, sealing the promise, little Helena, the name they chose together, kicked hard as if approving. 6 weeks later, when labor began at 3 in the morning, it was Raphael who took her to the hospital, holding her hand through each contraction, whispering words of encouragement. And when little Maria Helena was born, with strong lungs and curious eyes, it was Raphael who cut the umbilical cord, tears streaming down his face. "She's perfect," he murmured, holding the baby for the first time with trembling hands. "Our family," whispered Helena, watching the man she loved cradle her daughter. On the other side of the glass window, Lucas watched for a moment before leaving. Some stories end. Others are just beginning. And for Helena, Raphael, and little Maria, this was just the first page of a book that would be written with love, overcoming, and the certainty that sometimes, when everything falls apart, it's because something much better is about to be built on the ruins.